All right, folks, we are back with some Jetpac. Oops, that's not Jetpac. That's Miami Cobra GT. But we will open up, get our cursor out of there, and we're going to start. This is a 16. I think that this is the first 16K game that we've done since we started our Sinclair. I believe that's the case. Ooh. I did not want to do that. Stand by. You know, going full screen does weird things to monitor resolutions and OBS, so I try to avoid that whenever possible. Okay. We've got this screen, and it's seeming like it's a little bit stretched. We want to have it more. Oh no! Come on, like that, maybe. There we go. Looks pretty good. Okay. So, let's load up the 16K Spectrum. Alright, and we definitely want the Kempston. And hopefully I won't have to reconfigure my controls. Let's see. Oh, we're good to go. So Jetpac, the famous, probably one of the most famous releases for the 16K Spectrum, if not the 48K. You know, who doesn't love a good round of Jetpac? The game is simple. You build your rocket, you fuel your rocket, you take off, you collect gold. It's funny because one of my early gaming memories on the NES was playing a game called Solar Jetman, which is sort of the spiritual successor to what is it? The sequel to this game, which I think was Lunar Lander or something like that. At any rate, the same sort of physics engine where you're picking up things and dropping off things, although there's a kind of a trapeze type pulley system that your line is attached to your ship, and you had to use momentum and things. It was a pretty complex game for the humble Nintendo. It was difficult to get very far without Game Genie because it was a game full of one-hit kills, and I really think it could. Well, maybe I feel like that's the case. I don't think that there was a life bar in that. Did anybody else play Solar Jetman on the Nintendo? Level 2, you fight the furries. Ah. This game doesn't stay easy long, that's for sure. Oh, I forgot that you could go out one end and then the other. That makes things easier. Oh, got me. Oh, jeez. The game can end quickly if you're not paying attention. Ooh. One more. All right. Get this diamond. Speaking of diamonds, this evening I'm going to start a documentary about the making of Wish You Were Here, that classic Pink Floyd album. That's always been my favorite Pink Floyd record. I'm real hit or miss with Pink Floyd. I think The Wall is pretty much garbage, and a lot of their stuff is sort of fair to middling. But Wish You Were Here, pretty good album. Pretty good album. Thanks, Picard. Welcome back to you too. This is the bouncy ball level. These balls don't mess around. Oh, yeah, there we go. This game, the thing that I like about it is that even though it's a very simple game, there's a lot of variety in the enemies and the procedural nature of where the fuel and the rewards are dropped. Not to mention it's ultra colorful. I mean, that's the thing about the Specky, is that palette, that color palette, is so much, it's so much better than any other classic computer palette, in my opinion. I would much rather have the bright pastels than sort of the various shades of brown. It seemed like everything on the C64 was a shade of brown. Even like pink was some sort of a brownish pink. The Specky really did colors right, in my opinion. Bubble Bobble's coming back, Picard? I bet there was a Bubble Bobble for the Spectrum. I'm sure there was. There was a Rainbow Islands. There had to have been a Bubble Bobble. Not a bad start there. 11,780. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Man, the Switch is off the charts with the cool ports. It's really turning into the retro system of choice for a lot of people. I myself will be picking up a Switch in March when Animal Crossing is released. That is an all-time favorite game of mine, and I can't wait to see the Switch version. And at that point, Luigi's Mansion should be out, which is another one of my favorites. Sure, I think So what are you up to this evening, Picard? What's new in Finland these days? It's funny. I was just listening today at school to a Finnish composer whose name escapes me, but he's done some video game soundtracks. I'll tell you who he is in just a second. Let me log into my Bandcamp page. His name is Jukio Kallio. Oops. This is Jetpac, Ricky. This is one of the first releases from Ultimate Play the Game, a developer that went on to become Rare and have a little bit of success. But they started out as Ultimate Play the Game, and they had just a string of must-play titles for the Spectrum. This game really uses the Spectrum sounds right, too. It doesn't try to play any music. Your little pea shooter sound is perfect, and then they reserve the big guns for when you take off. I'm sure that there have been countless games with this sort of sort of theme, but I think Jetpac was probably the first. Jetpac set the standard, and it's still the best. I like the fact that it gives you a little breathing room in between rounds, too. Like watching your ship come up and come down. Hey, Amigos TV. What's going on? Amigos TV, you're, I haven't seen much from your YouTube channel these days. What's been going on, man? And you're right, Jetpac is a great game. These balls are killer, though. This is a game I definitely prefer to play with the control pad over a joystick. Sometimes you want to kind of get in there. There really isn't a time bonus, although that would have been a cool thing to add. You know, maybe just a bonus multiplier for how fast you can collect the stuff. But you do have the jewels and stuff to collect. Oh boy, that was a dumb move. These planes are when the game really starts to get tough. I don't even know if they're supposed to be planes, what they're supposed to be, but... Oh my gosh. One more guy. And that's the end. Yeah, I mean, there's really not that many really standout 16K Spectrum games, but this is one of them. We're gonna give this one more shot. See if I can't beat my high score one more time. I do kind of wish you could rebuild the rocket every couple stages just to add some more variety to the game. It would have been cool. Oh yeah, the Spectrum got a port of everything. I mean, there's a Lotus port for Spectrum. I'm pretty sure the Outrun port is actually better than the Amiga port. In fact, we played a game called Miami Cobra GT last week on our Sinclair, and that blew away the Amiga port of Outrun. Oh, you get a different rocket next level. That makes sense. So I just have to get better at the game to see that. Oh, I love it when that happens. Oh, I thought I was going to be able to just come cross right over. Hey, Pixels. How's it going, man? Good evening, Matt. Welcome to the stream. You got to throw the Atari in there too, Ricky. You can't forget about the Atari 8-bits. They were large and in charge in the early 80s. Really, the Apple II, out of all the 8-bit machines, is by far the worst gaming system, just because of the joystick. And because of the fact that it didn't have any custom chips in it. You know, it was all, oh jeez, that was horrible. 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 Wow. Well, we can't let that be our last game. Yeah, by well, it's sort of like the Amiga. I mean, the Amiga, it's the Atari still had commercial games released for it up until the late '80s, but just like with the Amiga, in the early or mid '90s, the '94 to '97 range, when stuff was still happening, but nobody was making games anymore. Most commercial publishers had bowed out after '94. The Atari still had some action between '85 and say '89, but it was dying a death. Hastened by Atari in some cases because they wanted to promote the ST. But I still remember because Antic survived as an 8-bit magazine until like '91 or '92, when it became Start with capital ST, the Atari ST resource, which broke my heart when they made that change because I knew my beloved Atari was no more. Yeah, I don't know enough about the Coco. I never knew anybody that had a Coco growing up. I knew people that had C64. I knew people that had. I was the person that had the Atari. Aaron and Brent had Cocos, but the fact that it was only distributed through Radio Shack really hurt it, because not everybody shopped at Radio Shack. Oh, but the Coco is definitely a cool system. I keep trying to get Brent and Aaron to do a full-on Coco podcast, because I just think there are so many fun games to explore in there. I have an Apple IIe, Ricky, and I've got this floppy EMU thing that I can plug into the disk drive port and load games. But I don't have any joysticks for the thing, and it doesn't have a standard cursor layout, which makes playing, it's sort of like playing games on the Spectrum where you're using like O, P, Q, and W to maneuver. And I'm sure that there's an adapter that lets you use 2600 joysticks on the Apple II. Actually, I'm not sure of that, but it would be cool if there was. All of the Apple II sticks I've seen are those Craft analog type sticks that are just not good for arcade action. Yeah, yeah. And I don't have a problem with analog joysticks for games that are good with them, but it's real hard to play a Pac-Man type game, especially with those those Craft joysticks never really had strong springs. They were always slow to recenter, or they wouldn't recenter at all. Well, that's going to do it for Jetpac. But let's go ahead and check out the sequel. I think it was called Lunar Lander. No, Lunar Lander is a different thing. Lunar Jetman from 1983. So I guess this came out the same year as Jetpac did. Oh, that's because I've still got the 16K Spectrum loaded up here. Switch over to the 48K. Okay. That's awesome. I'd love to see. I'm gonna have to start looking at some scans of the old Spectrum magazines. Oh my gosh, this is already harder. Ooh. bet that's a part I need. Or that's a thing that just blew me up. Oh. Man, I'm getting crushed here. I'm trying to read the comments, which isn't helping either. Yeah, I hear you, Matt. I hear you. The Spectrum Next can only succeed if the games look like Spectrum games. I don't care if they look good or not. I want them to look like Spectrum games and just have some quality of life improvements, save states, high scores, you know, persistent high scores, etc. But I am super excited about the Spectrum Next. I'll never be able to afford one myself because I mean, just looking at what those Kickstarter bids are going for, it's crazy. Oh, jeez. I was trying to do something with that. So what do you do with this bomb? You shoot it? Nope. Nope. I've been listening to a lot of Spoon this summer. That band, that 90s band. They've got that song, You Got Your Cherry Bomb. That's what I was thinking of when I saw that bomb. Yeah, I just want to get one piece of the ship onto the ship. That's all I want to do. Look at this. My fuel is draining crazy fast, too. Look at that. Well, this is obviously not the right way to go, because I'm out of fuel and I'm dead. Oh my gosh. Okay, is this a part of the truck? I don't know, and I'm dead again. Okay, that must not be part of the truck. Oh, and I'm out of fuel. Just gotta hoof it. Well, that was interesting. That's very, very difficult. All right. Well, it's going to bring to an end our Spectrum stream for this evening. But don't go anywhere, because I'm going to try and hook up a new gimmick that I got that will allow me to capture some Mac footage. And I'm going to give that a go, probably in about half an hour or so. And so stick around for that. And then immediately following the Mac experiment, I'm going to do a little bit of modern late night gaming with a this is a game, I've already forgotten the name of the title, a short hike, just downloaded from Steam today. It's supposed to be like a Animal Crossing style game, so I'm a sucker for those. So like I said, I'll be streaming probably till around 9 Eastern this evening. Stick around, but I'm going to take a little break, probably about a half an hour, and then we'll be back with some classic G4 Mac action if my new streaming gimmick works. So anyway, we'll see you guys later. Adios.